Well, hello everyone. Welcome to CIS 116. This is a video presentation that's going to show you how to build a simple application in Ruby to get input from the user, do some calculations, and put out some output. So what I want to do is a very simple application here. And what I want to do is write a program that calculates and displays the area and volume of a circular swimming pool. So what I'm going to do before I get into all of the requirements is I'm just going to start by opening up RubyMine, which is what you see here on the screen. And I've got a project that I created, which I went up to File, New Project, and I created a project. So I went to my place where I put my work. So I just created a folder on my system. And for untitled, I typed in CIS 116. And then I chose my Ruby SDK. So you'll have to have installed Ruby first before you install RubyMine. And if you do that, RubyMine will automatically figure out where Ruby is. And you can see here it's detected and displaying the location to the Ruby compiler here. So as long as that's all in place, then you can create your project. So I've done that. So when you do that, you'll get a project window, and I took and copied this utilities.rb file into the folder so that I could use it in my projects. So then what you do, if you want to write a new program, is you right-click on the project folder, and then you go down to New, select File, and when you type in your file name, it's important that you put the .rb extension at the end. So for instance here I would say example.rb, and then it will build for you the file, which you can now see is up here. And then here is the place where I'm going to type in my code. And then down below that, I have the output window, which lets me see the output when I run the program. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a comment block up at the top. In Ruby, when you start with a pound sign on a line, it looks at it as a comment, which basically means it will ignore it when you run your program. So comments are designed for the users when they read their code for any help to either have it explain what it's doing or how it works or whatnot. So I'm going to put here a title, swimming pool calculator, and I'm going to put a description up here as well. Description will be, this program determines the area and volume of a circular swimming pool. And we could go and add additional things to this, but I'll just go ahead and do that. And I'll also put the author up here and the date, which I'll put as July 7, 2018. So we've got a title, author, date, and the description. And now we can actually start writing the code. So to get started here, what I want to do is, instead of just going in and start typing code, I want to put some comments in that describe what my program is going to do. So for example, first thing I know I need to do here is I have to ask the user for the diameter of the pool. Could ask them for the radius, but more than likely they're going to have the diameter on hand. So all we have to do to get the diameter, all we have to do to get the radius is divide the diameter in half. So that's the first step. So if I was building an algorithm for this program, which you should do at the beginning of any program that you write, I would take and build my algorithm as a series of comments in my program. And then once the algorithm is finished, I will then go in and write the actual code for each line that I've put in as a comment. So my first step in my algorithm here is this step right here. The second step will be to ask the user for the height of the pool. And those are the only two things I need to ask the user for. Everything else I can do myself. The next step will be to calculate the radius. Then with that I can calculate the area. And with that I can calculate the volume. And then if I'm going to ask for the diameter, it's probably going to be in feet, and the height as well. So my area will be in square feet, my volume will be in cubic feet, and I want to represent that volume in gallons. So I'm going to put another step in here. Convert volume to gallons. So then I can display my results. So I'll just put here display results. So if I were to divide up this program into steps, these first two steps would be my input stage of the program. Then I've got my calculation stage here, and then my output stage here. And that's typically how you will set up simple programs that are text-based, is that you'll do all of your inputs first, then calculations, then output. Now it's not always that clean, but in this particular case we can do this because we can get everything we need up front, do the calculations, spit out the results, and we're good to go. So once I've got my algorithm put down like I have now I can go in and start writing the code. So I'm going to save my program just to make sure everything's cool. I'll do a save all. And now what I'm going to do is start writing code. So I'm going to ask the user a question, and I'm going to do that with the print statement. And I'm going to put the question text in quotes. And the question I'm going to ask is, what is the diameter of the swimming pool? And I'll put in feet just in case the user puts it in some other weird units. So what is the diameter of the swimming pool in feet? I'm going to put a space after the question mark, which gives the cursor a little breathing room for the user to go and type their response. Okay, so the question is there, and the next step now is to get input from the user. And to do that, I'm going to use the get S statement, which stands for get string. Now, string is anything. String could be numbers, letters, whatever. And we really want numbers here. So the user is going to type in numbers, at least we'll assume they're going to, and Ruby doesn't understand what it's getting, so we have to tell it that what the user is entering is a number. And there are two different types of numbers they can enter for us. They can give us integer numbers or decimal numbers. And in this particular case, we're going to assume that the diameter of the pool is a whole number. In other words, it's 26 feet or 27 feet. It's not going to be 26.5 or something like that. So we can use get s.toI, which will convert the text into an integer, and then we just have to have a variable to store it. So since it is the diameter, we'll just say diameter equals get s.toI. So that's how you get information from the user. You use the print statement, you put your question in quotes, you put a space after the question mark, and then on the next line you use get s and then either toI or toF. If you were entering text, you do it a little differently, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Let's put another statement up here that would require text. So ask the user for his/her name. Okay, so we'll say print what is your name, question mark, and this time we'll call it user underscore name. Now when you create a variable in Ruby, you can't use spaces. That's pretty much universally true of any language. So in order to represent spaces, I'm going to use underscores. So I've got user underscore name, and in this particular case I can just use get s. Now in Ruby, when you enter a string and get s captures it, it will include the carriage return as part of the string input. We don't want the enter key. In other words, they're going to type their name and hit enter. We don't want the enter. So to get rid of it, we use the command chomp, which will essentially chop off the carriage return on the end. So basically you're going to use get s.chomp for text, get s.toI for integer input, and then get s.toF, which looks like that, for decimal numbers. In this particular case we want integer, so you just have to know which one to use depending on what type of data you want. So the next question is for the height of the pool. put some spaces in here. Okay, so the height of the pool, again, we use the print statement. What is the height of the pool in feet? And then we'll say height equals get s.2i. Okay, so the next step is to calculate the radius, and that's pretty easy to do. You just say radius equals diameter divided by 2. Now, because diameter is an integer, it is going to divide that by 2, and when it sees an integer here, it looks at that 2 as an integer as well, and the answer you're going to get will be an integer. So in other words, if it was 10 divided by 2, you'd have 5. But if it was 12 divided by 2, you'd have 6. If it was 15 divided by 2, you'd end up with 7.5. However, it chops off the decimal point because it says, okay, this is an integer, that's an integer, so you want an integer result. In this particular case, we want to have that decimal number in there for accuracy. So what I'm going to do is put a 2.0 here. And what that does is it forces Ruby to do what we call a floating point divide. In other words, it takes diameter and say it's like 54 or 26, whatever it is, it converts it into a decimal. So instead it would be 26.0 or 54.0. And then it divides that by 2.0. So now my radius is a decimal number. So to calculate the area then, the area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Or another way of writing that is math : pi. That would be the Ruby's way of identifying pi, which is a constant. And I could have just typed in 3.14152, but math.pi, or math pi here, is a little more accurate. Then I need the radius times the radius, which is how it's one way of doing that pi r squared calculation. So now I have my area. The volume is simply equal to the area times the height. Now to convert the volume into gallons, if you go out online in the internet, you will find out that there are 7.48052 gallons per cubic foot. So if I create a variable here called volume in gallons, I can set it equal to volume times 7.48052. Now I have all of my calculations done. So to display the results, you use the putS function. Now, I can do this many different ways, but the best way to do it is to display something like area : space. And then what I want to put next is the actual area value, the number, which is located inside of this variable here. So what I want to do is put pound and then in curly braces area like that. What that's going to do is it's going to put the actual number in right here. So it'll say area : space and then the number. And then after it I can say square feet. I can do the same thing for volume. And this will be gallons. So that's, so far anyway, everything we need. So let's just go ahead and try it and see if it works. So I'm going to hit the run up top here. So put my name in, and the diameter, we'll say it's 26. Height, we'll just say 5.5. And I get a runtime error on line 23. If I click on that line, it takes me here, and the problem is I spelled radius wrong. I spelled it right here, but I messed it up here. And of course, I did this on purpose for you guys to show you what would happen if you'd misspell a variable. That's the brilliance that you're dealing with here. I did that on purpose just for you guys. So let me fix that up here. All right, yeah, we got that fixed. Let's try it again. So we're going to say Tim 26, oops, 5.5. And now we get some rather interesting numbers here, 530.92. Now, do I really care about all of that? Probably not, unless I have some mental issues. Same thing here. So I want to round that basically off. And there are different ways of doing this. Now, I've given you guys a file called utilities.rb. And inside of it are things that you can call to automatically round variables numbers off and put commas in for thousand separators and stuff like that. All you have to do is go to the top of your program and type in require relative, and then in quotation marks put the name of the file, utilities.rb. Also, the file has to be in the folder where your source code is. So 2 separate files in the same folder. Once it's there and you put this in, you can do stuff like the following. I can go down to my area and I can say area dot 2 underscore thousands. Do the same thing with gallons. 2 thousands. So now if I run this, you'll see that now I get an area of 530.93 and then my volume 19,858 gallons. You might be thinking the following kind of thoughts. What happens if the user puts in a negative number when they're asked for the area or the diameter or text or who knows what, right? There are a lot of ways that you could cause this program to crash. We are assuming that the user is going to behave themselves here and type in good input for us. But we're going to have to deal with the fact that they may not. We're not there yet in the course to address those issues, because in order to fix problems like that, we have to be able to make decisions and repeat code. So we have to look at something, decide whether or not it's valid, and if it's not, we have to repeat the question again. So loops and decision making are 2 components of a language that are vital. What we've done so far here is create sequential code. Those other 2 things are called repetition code and decision making code. And we'll have to get to that when we get to those points in the course. We can come back to this example and we can bulletproof it a little bit more, make it so the user can't screw things up. For now, we're going to just assume the user's putting in good data. We're getting out answers that look good. So this program at this point, we're going to say it's complete. You could turn it in for an assignment and I would grade it. So that's the process. And this is the file right here, example.rb. That's where you would return, or that's what you would submit. You can right click on it and go down to show in Explorer, and it will actually pop up for you the path where it's located. So there it is right there. I could take it and then attach it into Blackboard and so forth. So hopefully this helps you out in getting you started in Ruby. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and I will be putting up more videos here to help you out as we go. But this is just going to get you started, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.